Item number 15, receive and consider a notice of intent for changes to the Scenic Rivers Program. Amelia Wolf, Scenic Rivers Program.
Are we good? Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman and Commission members. My name is Amelia Wolf, and I have the pleasure of presenting to you the NOI of changes to the Scenic Rivers Act as described in Title 76. Just to make sure we're all starting off on the same page and with the same awareness, the Louisiana Natural and Scenic Rivers Act was actually enacted by a legislature back in 1970. And since then, there have been a few changes to it. Primarily, there's been multiple rivers added to its protections. But in its inception in 1970, it also listed the Secretary of Wildlife and Fisheries as the administrator of the act, with the responsibility of protecting, preserving, enhancing, reclaiming, and developing those waterways and the surrounding riparian zone of those listed water bodies in that system. So we're going to go over a few updates that we have proposed, starting off with a definition that has gone through a lot of work. So previously, there has been a selective harvesting definition because there is a prohibition for certain commercial harvesting activities of timber along a scenic waterway. Scenic water bodies have a 100-foot buffer. And so there was a restriction to anything above or beyond selective harvesting in that 100-foot buffer. However, we realized that the selective harvesting definition was quite unclear. And so after much review and coordination with other groups like Department of Ag and Forestry and LFA, we did work on a new definition for selective harvesting, which is the removal of trees either as a single or scattered individuals or in small groups where the remaining average basal area is no less than 50 square foot per acre. And it very much mimics what the department is already using on our WMAs for forestry practices. For the next 3 sections, there's going to be a lot of repetition. It's broken into 3 parts. One is going to be how a river is reviewed and nominated. The second one will be the management plans for the rivers. And then the third will be the permitting process for activities on those rivers. All 3 of those are going to have very, very similar language, and we are updating the language in all 3 of those sections to be the same. So the Louisiana State Planning Office used to be a required coordinating entity. They no longer want to be a part because they do not deem it necessary or a part of their purview to coordinate and comment on scenic river permits activities or the rivers themselves. And so we have replaced that with the Office of State Lands, which is deemed to be more appropriate and necessary. So again, we're just changing it to Office of State Lands. In all of our coordination, we require, or the Act currently requires, public comment periods, whether it's a nomination, a management plan, or a permit application. There is always a public comment opportunity. Currently, it's a 45-day public notice period. We would like to reduce it to 30 days simply to make it more compliant with other industry standards on environmental regulatory practices. We're not aware of any other agency, federal, state, or local, that has a 45-day public notice period. It's always 30 days or less. So we would just like to bring it down to 30 days to make it more efficient. Also, currently, an applicant is required to post their own public notices. The department does not do it for them. So there must be one publication published in the official state journal, that being the Advocate, but they also are required currently to do 3 separate issues in whatever parish's journal they are located, the actual activity is located in. In some parishes, that can actually be quite expensive. For example, in St. Tammany, you're looking at $600 or more just on doing 3 issues of a public notice. So we have decided, or after much discussion, we have considered allowing 1 publication in the local paper instead of 3 in the local paper, but remaining the 1 in the Advocate. That's not going to change. And that's across the board for the management plans, the nominations of rivers, and also for permitting processes. So once again, replacing with state lands, going from 45-day public notice period to 30 days. From 3 days, 3 separate issues in the parish journal to just 1. And permitted activities. We will see those 3 issues again, but let's go ahead and go back to timber harvesting real quick. Currently, there is a requirement that if you are selective harvesting in that 100-foot buffer, notification must be given to Wildlife and Fisheries and also Ag and Forestry for any selective harvesting occurring in there. At this moment, there has been a few instances where a company or a landowner would like to clear more than that. We are providing an opportunity for regulation of clearing more, so exceeding the selective harvesting description with permit. So there was not an opportunity beforehand. We are developing that now because there has been a lot of requests that landowners are able to convert habitat on a scenic river. So they would want to go in and clear cut and encourage more hardwood establishment. And so we are now establishing a regulatory process for that to be permissible under the Act. And that is what those 2 reference. Again, we're changing to state lands, 30 days. State lands again, state lands again. The permit term is currently 18 months, so only a year and a half. And the Act only allows a 1-year extension total beyond that. So a total maximum permit term of 2.5 years. We would like to consider extending the permit term from 18 months to 2 years with 2 possible extensions of 1 year each, finding that there has been no significant change to the circumstances where that project is located. And that also just brings us into matching with other regulatory standards of environmental purview from similar entities and agencies. All right, activities that qualify for expedited permitting. This entire section of 118 is brand new. This will establish general permits. So general permits are activities that Wildlife and Fisheries has determined to have no significant deleterious impact on the system, all the rivers, bayous, streams within this Act, that may qualify for general permit, which if granted could afford a more expeditious review process and would not require a public comment period. And then I'm going to go through the categories that we have established that may be applicable for a general permit, so that expedited review. One would be general maintenance of existing structures, which is a significant portion of the regulatory review that we have encountered. Some maintenance activities look like a camp is falling into disrepair, but you can't repair it in kind. You have to totally demolish and replace it. So that would still potentially apply for the general maintenance permit. Also, new residential construction of non-inhabitable structures over water, including but not limited to pilings, boat sheds, docks, walkways, piers. We did set a square foot limit to that, being 800 square foot. Just looking at the summary and the permit scope of the projects that come under our review, it seems like most of them are probably right around, or some are definitely under, but there have been a rising number of structures that are over 800 square foot. So we want to maintain that the smaller structures be applicable to a potential expedited review. Number 3, bankline stabilization projects. So we're talking about riprap and bulkheads. We would not consider concrete mats to be something that would qualify for expeditious review, simply because there's so much involved in the installation and also the potential need for a concrete mat on a bank line that we would like to give the public the opportunity to comment specifically on that type of project. Again, this is limited to 200 linear feet with very limited, if any, backfill at all permissible. Number 4, HDD drilling or boring of sewer lines, water lines, and transmission cables. We're not going to consider overhead transmission lines or right-of-ways for a general permit. That will still qualify for the full public notice review. Number 5, rebuilding or renovations to a single residence or camp, not to include commercial operations or activities. In order to qualify for the general permit, so in order to have the expedited review, the applicant must already provide us at the time of submittal of the application a sanitary treatment plan that DH and also DEQ, if necessary, have approved of, because DEQ would also be approving of the discharge if it's necessary. But DH would be approving of the septic system as a whole. Number 6, maintenance dredging of existing boat slips and boat ramps. There are many water bodies that especially our sandy water bottoms, that silt in very, very quickly. And so certain landowners need to go out repetitively, possibly even every other year, to do maintenance on their boat slips, on their boat ramps, so that they can access these scenic waterways. And we don't want to be a hindrance to that. And so part of the idea of this was making an expedited review to allow people to very quickly obtain a permit and complete their work so they can get back to enjoying the river. Number 7 being the last one, habitat improvements to riparian ecological functions within that 100-foot buffer when they exceed the selective harvest definition, as we had previously outlined it. So this is what I was referencing earlier, as in establishing and developing an opportunity for a landowner to exceed that selective harvest definition and be able to clear cut on their property whenever it is deemed appropriate and acceptable ecologically by the Scenic Rivers Program and Act. All right, are there any questions?
Okay, any questions for Ms. Wolf? Okay, Commissioner Blanchard?
Just because I don't know, explain to me what scenic rivers are.
So whenever the Scenic Rivers Act was first established in 1970, there were under 50, I think it was actually like 47 rivers, bayous, creeks, streams that were listed. But currently there's about 60 of them. And if you count all of the named tributaries of the Chifuncta River, because they are included, but if we were to name them all and put them in the act as well, it would be about 80 different rivers, streams, bayous, and creeks. One of the primary identifiers of a scenic river for our review is that they must be free flowing or predominantly free flowing, and very little modifications to them. So no recent dredging or channelization or any such thing like that.
And who classifies it as a scenic river? The state does, or?
The state does. It's a multi entity effort, because Wildlife and Fisheries is responsible for reviewing that. But ultimately it is decided by the legislature whether or not the river proposed is acceptable to be added to the act under its protections.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just need to know that.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions from commission? Okay. No, we have some public comment. Yes. We have Rebecca Trish would like to speak on item number 15, Scenic Rivers.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll be quick in under 3 minutes. I'm Rebecca Trish, Louisiana Wildlife Federation Executive Director. We're going to comment on these changes. I think we knew that obviously these changes were coming, but what I wanted to say for those present and people who might be listening, there were a couple of bills this session about scenic rivers, and they were involving either removing some of them from this designation or extending exceptions for that designation through several years. And so that allows for obviously no oversight that's being provided for that designation. And during that legislative process, several organizations, ours, Louisiana Wildlife Federation, the Nature Conservancy, Pontchartrain Conservancy, and others, North Shore River Watch, gave a lot of testimony. A lot of local residents along these rivers spoke up, spoke out, came to those committee hearings, And so there is a lot of concern about oversight, and that is what the department does, regulatory for these rivers. I think just your question was, a good one in that a lot of people, it's been a program established designation for a long time. So it doesn't get talked about as much, but there's a lot of value, pressures from development, as well as pressure from, changes along the river and how that affects its function and quality are of concern to a lot of people. And so I think you'll be hearing some comments on these changes, and to know that we have a really good program. It's a good system with a lot of river miles in it. One of the largest, I think, in the country. So, people 55 years ago saw that this was needed for all the things that happen in terms of development and changes to how rivers are managed. And so it's important. And I appreciate you listening to these comments.
I've got a
Okay,
question. for you.
thank you.
Are you- I got one.
Commissioner Brister?
Are you in support of the changes or not in support of the change?
I think the last one we would have to go over and we'll comment more closely, because what I learn every couple of years, there's a bill that sort of looks at these rivers. And you do hear a lot of comments from locals who want to have that kind of input. They know it well, and they're using it either, recreationally, or it's a part of economic development. You find out that there's a lot of opinions from the upper parts of these rivers as opposed to what's managed from like local government. So you'll hear from parish officials about these rivers and the part that they play in flood control, also just a quality of life. So I'm not sure that some of those activities, we'd have to look closely if that would just get no comment from local, whether that's parish government or residents in the area, because I think that's what it's saying. And I just would want to look at those activities and ask some of these people who take the time to come and comment when there's an open comment period on a permit here. I hope that's helpful.
Mr. Brister?
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know who can answer this, but I was looking up the scenic rivers. Dorcheat Bayou is where I live up there, and one of the problems that we have, especially around the Minden areas, is you have what's known as the old bar pits where they used to dig gravel and things off to the side. Well, salvinia is in there, and that's one of the primary sources of salvinia coming into Dorcheat, going in Lake Bistineau and all the way down. Who's responsible? Are we responsible for controlling the inflow of that salvinia into our bayou there? I mean, it's a beautiful bayou.
So
Aquatic weed control is what it is.
we do have a program for aquatic control in-house, but specifically to scenic rivers. It's probably a good thing to note right now that whenever the Scenic Rivers Act was established, it was also given a stipend, I guess I could say. It was given its own purse, and it had, I would say, enough funding to be active and collect not only data, but coordinate with landowners and commercial and industrial activities, and perform certain activities that we maybe would need additional coordination with in order to accomplish now. So the department could potentially investigate and have some sort of hand in assistance, but we would not be the primary authority in doing so.
Okay, well, that question's been asked several times, but because of so much stuff that, I mean, in certain times of the year, you can just see it coming out. So you either got to kill it or block it off.
Yeah, like I
And-
said, we do have
Yeah.
aquatic vegetation program, and there's I believe there's a grant associated with that as well. But whenever it comes to forcing a landowner to do something on their property, that is not something that we get involved.
And it could be an old issue. I don't know if anybody in any of our staff has ever come across this before or heard about this, but I've had a lot of interest in trying to solve that problem. We think it would solve or help solve the problem on into Lake Bistineau. So, okay, I'll check into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Trish?
Thank
Thank you very
guys.
much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Next we have Emily Buxton. I believe that's correct, I hope. Close? All right.
Hello, my name is Emily Buxton, and I'm the Director of External Affairs at the Nature Conservancy here in Louisiana. Thank you for the opportunity to address the commission today. My comments are specifically going to focus on the public outreach aspect of this notice of intent. Like Rebecca said, I think the rest of the proposed changes, we may be commenting on next month. So we have no position at this time on some of those changes. The Nature Conservancy has always been a strong proponent of the Scenic Rivers Program. We've successfully defended the program from harmful legislation, attempting to undermine the program's purposes for many years now. Much of the legislation that we've seen in recent years proposes taking designated rivers out of the program for a given period of time, mainly in order to perform certain actions on the river, including clearing, dredging, or snagging. Some proposed actions are larger in scope, including large-scale engineering projects. Year after year, advocates and locals come out in opposition to this sort of legislation because they fear that proposed actions will harm beloved rivers where they recreate and enjoy nature. As the department is considering changes to public outreach specifically today, I'd like to offer some observations and suggestions for enhancing and increasing public outreach. In general, as locals find out about proposals and changes to scenic rivers through word of mouth or social media. Most are not learning about proposed projects through parish journals or the newspaper, despite those being required methods of notification by the department. Although the department posts permits under review currently on a map on their website, you have to have Google Earth to view it, as well as the general knowledge of how to use Google Earth, which I can tell you as an advocate, I don't really know how to use it as well as I should. It would be simpler if all permit applications were posted directly to the LWF website. This is how they do it in the Office of Coastal Management over at LDENR. I think that would be an easy solution to actually seeing some of these permits. Additionally, if there was an email listserv that sends new permit applications to registered people, that would also make the public engagement process easier. With regards to the amount of time the public comment process is open for, in general, we believe that 30 days will be a sufficient amount of time to comment, depending on when the notice is released and how long and detailed the permit application is. We frequently request extensions if public comment periods are during holiday breaks or if certain permits are particularly extensive or complex in nature. In these circumstances, we ask the department consider extending comment periods to offer commenters more time to prepare comments. In general, we see the program as an important and valuable program for the department and for the state of Louisiana, and I can just tell you it's very much beloved by members of the public. We encourage the department to explore ways in which to publicize the program more and teach the public about the benefits of scenic rivers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, and we'll take all of it under consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any question? None? We have one more comment. It's Matthew Allen, and he's against the proposal. North Shore River Watch.
Well, I had good morning written down, but good afternoon, Commissioners and Chairman. Thank you. Matthew Allen from North Shore River Watch. I grew up on the Wilcherfunct River, designated scenic river since the very beginning. And our scenic rivers are very valuable to our communities, very important to us. And the people who live and recreate rest easier knowing they're protected with all these scenic river regulations that we have. And they really have been effective, not totally, there's always changes. And some of these changes, I appreciate where they're coming from. Some of the other ones, our members are feeling like there's kind of a consolation prize to the people who are pushing the bills to remove scenic rivers this year. But really, it's important to communities, and it's not stopping development like a lot of people say. It's a balance that we're looking for. Scenic River informs how to develop around these special areas for recreation for the public and gives us multiple uses instead of one use. I want to point out, it is very limited, 100 feet on either side of the river. That's not much longer than this room. So we're not talking about limiting expanses of forest and limiting commercial harvest on it. We're talking about a small strip, and these small strips are important to the rivers. Public notices, that's a big issue for everybody. They're hard to keep up with. How many regulatory agencies do we have here in the state that we have to watch public notices for? Most people don't even know how to do it. And while I agree 30 days is pretty good, wildlife fishery is still behind the curve on how we do it. DEQ, Army Corps of Engineers, coastal restoration, they all have their public notices and application forms online for the public to access. As it stands, I have to read about it in the newspaper. Hopefully I'm not on vacation that week. And then I have to email the Scenic River coordinator to get a copy of it. That's burdensome on the public too. And I think that would be better, and we'd be more agreeable with the changes in the public notices and comment period if we had access automatically online to these. I don't think that's too big of an ask in today's modern technology society. So that's one of the requests that we have, that y'all look at this before y'all actually put it out. It is a very efficient program. I've been working with Scenic Rivers myself for over 17 years. And I've known 3 Scenic River coordinators. They are the hardest working government officials I've ever met. They're in charge of 64 Scenic Rivers plus 2 historic rivers. And they keep up with it all in a timely fashion. So I'm not sure where this is coming from, but we will be submitting comments through the public participation mechanisms. And thank you all for introducing us and let me have the chance to speak with y'all about it.
Thank you very much. Any questions? None? Okay, okay, so, well, we have this notice of intent. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Brister, second by Commissioner Blanchard. All in favor? Aye. Okay, the notice of intent passes for the changes Scenic Rivers Program.
Chairman.
Yes.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman, if I may, I just wanted to let the gentleman know that House Bill 526 this past legislative session changed the official state journal from the Advocate to it's going to be a website that's going to be created on la.gov. And so he will have access. All public records will be going